Let's talk about a piece of technology from way back in the 1440s. Now, that might sound like ancient history, right? But what if I told you that this one invention completely rewired our world in ways we are still feeling every single day? I'm talking about everything from the books on your shelf to the very way our society is structured.
To really get a handle on its impact, we have to go back in time. So picture this. You're a monk, you're hunched over a wooden desk, and for the last year and a half, you've been doing one thing: copying the Bible, by hand, word for word. Your eyes are killing you, your fingers are stained with ink, but you've created a masterpiece. And it's so incredibly valuable that only the richest church or a powerful nobleman could even think about buying it.
So, what's the price tag for a masterpiece like that? Well, in medieval Europe, a single handwritten Bible would set you back about 30 florins. Now, I know that number doesn't really mean anything to us today, so let's put that into perspective. 30 florins. That was the entire annual salary for a skilled craftsman. A mason, a carpenter. A full year of hard work for one book. Books weren't just expensive, they were the ultimate luxury item, a symbol of incredible wealth and power that was only available to a tiny, tiny fraction of the population.
This was the world before the printing press. You could call it the manuscript economy. It was a world where knowledge was rare, it was precious, and maybe most importantly, it was tightly controlled.
I mean, just think about the sheer physical resources needed. For one Bible, you needed the hides of 300 sheep just to make the parchment. Then you add months or even years of painstaking manual labor by highly trained scribes. It's easy to see why knowledge was so concentrated. If you control the books, you control what people know about history, science, and religion. This scarcity wasn't just an accident, it was a really powerful tool for social control.
And then into this world steps a guy named Johannes Gutenberg. Now, he wasn't a scholar, he wasn't a monk, he was a goldsmith, an entrepreneur, really, an engineer. He didn't just have one good idea. No, he solved an incredibly complex manufacturing problem by creating an entire system.
You see, Gutenberg's real genius was in combining 4 key innovations into one smooth process. He came up with a durable metal alloy for the letters, a new kind of oil-based ink that would actually stick to the metal, and he cleverly adapted a wine press to get the even pressure he needed. But the heart of it all, the absolute game changer, was his adjustable type mold.
It's a real shame we don't have any of Gutenberg's original tools, but molds like these, from a couple of centuries later, they show us the basic idea. It was this little handheld device that let a worker quickly and easily cast individual letters out of metal. And the concept was just brilliant. The mold could be adjusted for the width of any letter you needed, from a skinny little I to a big wide W. What did this mean? It meant that a single worker could churn out thousands of perfectly identical, totally interchangeable letters. This wasn't just about making a letter, it was about making endless copies of every letter.
And this, right here, is what it all led to, the birth of mass production. We tend to think of Henry Ford in the assembly line, but listen to this. 4 centuries earlier, Gutenberg was using interchangeable parts to create his Bible. Let that sink in. For that first print run, it's estimated they cast 4 million individual pieces of type. It was like a miniature industrial revolution.
So what was the result of this genius system? It wasn't just that books got cheaper. It was a complete and total explosion of information that would change the face of Europe forever.
I mean, just look at these numbers. Seriously, in 1450, right before the press, there were maybe 30,000 books in all of Europe, okay? Just 50 years later, 20 million. That's not just growth, that's a tidal wave. An unimaginable flood of information was suddenly unleashed on the world.
And here's the really crucial part. This explosion wasn't just happening in Latin, the fancy language of the church and the academics. Printers were business people. They wanted to sell to as many people as possible. So they started publishing in the local languages: German, French, English. For the very first time, complex ideas were available to everyday people in the language they actually spoke.
Okay, so what happens when you suddenly give millions of people access to information in their own language? Well, society doesn't just change a little bit, it gets completely rebuilt from the ground up.
The Protestant Reformation is a perfect example. In 1517, Martin Luther posts his arguments on a church door. Now, without the press, that might have stayed a local religious squabble. But with the press, his ideas were printed and flying across Germany in a matter of weeks, and all of Europe in a few months. This was the world's first massive media revolution, and it was all powered by print.
And the effects just rippled out into every corner of society.
For scientists, they could finally share identical texts and build on each other's work with confidence. National languages started to take shape because print standardized spelling and grammar. The very idea of an author as a job came into being. And maybe biggest of all, something brand new was born: public opinion. Large groups of people could all read and debate the same ideas at the same time. So let's just hit pause for a second and look at the before and after. We went from a world where knowledge was controlled by a few, spread at a snail's pace, and full of errors, to one where it was accessible to many, spread in weeks, and was standardized and reliable. It was a fundamental transformation in how we as a species record and share our thoughts.
So why does this 500-year-old story matter so much to us today? Well, because if you look closely, we are living through an almost identical revolution right now, just with pixels instead of print.
Just look at these parallels. It's kind of spooky. The old gatekeepers were the scribes in the church. The new ones are social media platforms and algorithms. The barrier to entry used to be knowing how to read. Now it's digital literacy. And misinformation? Oh, that is not new. They had inflammatory pamphlets. We have fake news. Even the new jobs, like the printer becoming the content creator, the pattern is exactly the same.
And here's the key takeaway. Technology just creates potential. The printing press created the potential for a more enlightened world, but it also created the potential for mass propaganda and conflict. That whole process of democratizing knowledge, the one that started with a metal press and a workshop in Germany, it's still playing out right now on the screens in our hands.
And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. The printing press gave us both the Renaissance and the scientific revolution, but it also gave us information overload and fueled devastating wars. So, as we stand here at the dawn of another huge technological shift with AI, what lessons can we possibly learn from Gutenberg's revolution to help us navigate our own?